won't go into all the details. But then she talks about what she likes, and she has a real serious fantasy about babies. She wants to maim them. The only thing that she likes to do with the baby, she will get somebody else's babies and torture them and flail them and dismember them. So she's telling me this, and she's okay with it. She thinks that this is the thing to do. And we got to talking, and she says, and look, let me get this idea about her. She's a little bit off, like she doesn't really look off, but she'll dress kind of conservative, but then at the same time she's got like these costumes which are like kind of like Halloween costumey kind of things, like when she puts them on or when she chooses to be in drag or whatever, like maybe goth or one of these kind of styles, like vampires and stuff. I mean, so are you getting the picture more now? See, I should have told you that sooner. So she can switch into that mode, but when she's going around, she's not always dressed up in this
The most widespread forms of worship among ancient people involved human sacrifice, not only in Canaan but also in northern Africa, India, Europe, and the Americas. The ancients believed that the blood of the sacrifice is what appeased the gods. The pagan practice of blood sacrifice is actually a perversion of the rights given by God to His people, Israel. To His priests He declared, For the life of the creature is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that makes atonement for the soul. Sacrifice to any other god was condemned as idolatry. They shall no more offer their sacrifices to demons, after whom they have played the harlot. This shall be a statute forever for them throughout their generations. As we look at the practice of human sacrifice in ancient times, keep in mind that, according to God's perspective, these sacrifices were made to demons, the false gods of the pagan nations. The ancient city of Carthage was the capital of the Phoenician Empire, one of the most advanced civilizations of their time. But recent archaeological expeditions have revealed another notable feature: the incredibly high incidence of child sacrifice. Altars on which children were sacrificed and stone markers, which mark the burial place of their remains, have been uncovered, along with the stone carvings on the markers that depict the children who were sacrificed. Clay jars were used to hold the remains. Burial grounds full of thousands of these ritually sacrificed children have been unearthed. The Carthaginians were descendants of the ancient Canaanites and worshipped the same god, Baal or Moloch. Archaeologists have established that the primary deity that the children were sacrificed to was the goddess Tanit, the name being a regional representation of the more universal Ashtaroth. Written accounts tell us that the priests of Baal would beat drums during the ritual sacrifice in order to drown out the cries of the grieving mothers.
Multiple conflicts on sea and land for the control of the Mediterranean. The Carthaginians were the old Phoenicians transplanted to North Africa, and they had a particularly brutal faith that was rooted in the old deities of the Canaanites, brought from the cities of the plain, the Philistines, and ultimately transported to North Africa. As a result, all of the horrors that we read about in the Old Testament, the Asherahs, the Baals, the Molechs, the worship of demons, this was at the heart and soul of Carthaginian culture. When the Romans encountered this, really for the first time in the Punic Wars, they were shocked into the realization of the roots of the old pagan world. They desired to set themselves apart as something different.
And she's not lying. She's telling me really what she thinks and feels. So then, I get out of this situation, and I gather more information on her, because apparently, well, the time that I spent around her, she's not really a threat to an adult, especially a male adult male. But I have children. Here's the thing. Thank God that I didn't have many children around her, hanging around with me at that time. I'm so glad that I didn't have her like eyeballing my kids and then telling me about that, because it would be a completely different story to tell you, and maybe not too happy. But she never encountered my kids. I didn't go into my kids. I didn't hear that fantasy of hers and then tell her, oh, that's nice, I have children, I raise them, I don't eat them. I want to raise them to adulthood, and I want to be friends with them. I'm normal. No, I don't have sex with them. If they're naked and I've got to change them, they've got to wash, I've got to train them in these things like normal human hygiene. Like, I don't do anything sexual. I didn't get into that with her because this was a tough case. And now hold on a second. I call it a fantasy. No, she wasn't saying it like it was a fantasy. She's saying it like she does that. It's been done. I don't know how many times or when, what condition or who was involved, but from what I gather, her family, or at least her father and other people, something's going on there. Something satanic, something devil worshipping, something violent, something destructive, something with murders. And, you know, children disappear, so here's the answer to that riddle. You know, where did they go? I know. And, you know, this has stuck with me. As I said, I've got a lot of stories. I've encountered a lot of people. Like the human pageant has been revealed to me because I'm so open and I find out these things.
Human sacrifice, the most monstrous of all satanic rituals.
Praise Satan! Please, no! Oh, please, God, no! Praise Satan!
Worshippers believe a blood sacrifice secures for them their selfish desires and an audience with their God.
Sacrificing children to Moloch goes back thousands of years. The ancient Canaanites and Babylonians would sacrifice often their firstborn children through the fire to Moloch because it was believed that they are pleasing the gods in that manner. If they offered up their firstborn son through the fire to Moloch, they believed they would get better crops that year, that their god that they are sacrificing their children to would show them favor, give them power, wealth, fame, all these sorts of things that these people often desire. And so this is going on to this day where these members of the Grove, remember, we're talking about presidents here, and you know, people like the head of the Federal Reserve and World Bank and very powerful and influential people are going out to this grove dressing up in hooded robes, black and red robes, and engaging in this mock human sacrifice. And I think the reason why it's called the cremation of care is because that is precisely what they are doing. They are burning off their care. They are killing their God-given conscience in this ritualistic ceremonial sacrifice. And I've often referred to the Bohemian Grove as kind of like a Illuminati summer training camp, because once you show the inner circle of the global elite that you are willing to kill off your conscience and your care, then you prove that you are ready to move on up the ladder on the inner ranks of the inner circle of the global elite. So this, of course, is of great interest to me. The occult connection into the agendas of the New World Order is an important part of understanding the global elite's motives and their desires and their intentions. So I have something in my possession that I wanted to show you today. I made a blog about this, I guess a year ago or so, last time Bohemian Grove was going on, but there's probably a good chance you haven't seen that, so I thought I would show this to you again. This is a document that I've had in my possession for quite some time now, and here it is. Let me just take a seat. Now, what we have here is a copy of Harper's Weekly from September 22nd, 1894. So this is a very old newspaper that I have right here, and in it we see that there is an article on the Bohemian Grove titled "The Bohemian Club of San Francisco Midsummer Hijinks." And now I'll show you a little bit of some of the things that I found in this article that are of interest to me. where it says here, "The band was at its head playing the dirge, behind it a somber catafalque on which rested a draped coffin borne by 8 men in white robes and supposed to contain the body of Care. Behind that came a long line of choristers in white, all carrying torches, and the high priest of Bohemia in picturesque robes came last with the gypsy chief, the sire of the evening. Around these were red devils and gnomes in fantastic masks, bearing the blue lights and moving to and fro incessantly. Then came the members of the guests of the club, making a long procession wonderfully weird under those giant trees lit up with red fire. Over in the little hollow a few hundred yards away from the grove was built a funeral pyre on which turpentine had been sprinkled. The coffin was laid on this pyre. The high priest took his stand on the platform beside it. Around him in a semicircle the choristers and demons with their torches were grouped. The high priest went through a ceremonial in which the choir behind him intoned or sang the words that he spoke. He called on the Bohemians to present their carking cares and their heartaches to be put on the pyre and burned up. Then came some jokes that were pertinent to club members and matters. Then he invoked the Saint John of Nepomuc, adopted by the club for his appropriateness in several ways, and suddenly an enormous figure of Saint John in his robes burst into flame. The pyre was lighted. Care and the Blue Devils went up in a most beautiful and effective form of fireworks, and amid the jubilant cries, the hijinks was over. Now, something else that I found very incredible about this particular article from 1894, remember this is a time when the press wasn't quite as controlled as it is today, so they could get away with printing these types of things. But this particular editor even included artist rendition pictures of the ceremony known as the cremation of Care. Here are those pictures. As you can see here, here is all the high priest, and there's all the giant redwood forests. As you can see there, they all are in their robes, and the little devils carrying the coffin, which is about
together. She didn't get like this on her own. She was born into it. There is a whole network. Okay, this, when I found her, it was just the tip of the iceberg. And I know where they are. And they blend into society. I don't know when they do these things, but they do them when you're not seeing them, like especially at nighttime, the witching hour, and especially around Halloween, and there's other times of the year. Folks, I'm not trying to scare you. You know, I'm not one of these people. If I tell you I'm doing a serious video and I got in this talk and you can hear it in my voice. Sometimes I'll do a comedy video, or I'll do like freaky artistic stuff. You've seen those videos. There's a major difference. You can recognize it. I don't blur that line like other people do. Like stupid people that want to confuse you, they'll do that. You'll watch it's like, ooh, you know, I'm not going to name any channels, but I have associated with them before. There's lots of different people, but my position on this is not to confuse you. When I'm telling you something serious, I'm not telling you to try to scare you. I'm telling you because it exists in the world. And in fact, I have so many subscribers and viewers that some of you watching this, that's you, that's your life. And you're probably thinking, oh, he's saying this, he's on to us. And some of you satanic people, you talk about it with people like me. So it's not like I didn't pry you open. You tell me. And I'm just saying, like, I don't do that, and I don't think it's right. And I don't want anyone else to think it's right, and I don't want the satanic people to think it's all right. It's twisted, it's wrong, it's demonic. So let me give the list here on this person that I hung out with on various occasions, various nights, especially this time where I really was keyed in to what she's all about. Raped and abused as a child. She's into all this like strange necrophiliac stuff, like gothic and you know, vampires and demons, werewolves. That her imagination is blown out of proportion. She would tell me all this stuff, and you know, really damaged that way. Something going on with her mother. I don't know whether her mother tried to break away from the cult or something, but her father had major control on her. Incest type of rape. That's a specific, like, harsh form of it. That's extreme. And next, child sacrifice, baby sacrifice, experience in it, and thinking it's all right. It's what we want. It's the best of the best. So there's the list, folks. It's real. And now I want to tell you why I'm revealing this right now. Because I've been seeing this other guy talk about stuff, and he's from another area that's only 100 or 100, well, probably, is it 200 miles? Less than 200 miles away from where this girl was raised. And this other guy, he's like an older generation of it, but he's talking about the same things. And I'm going to do a video on him next. He broke out of the cult, he's exposing it, he's talking about a whole bunch of stuff, and he says that there's 1 out of 10 people in America that are doing this, that are involved in this demonic, satanic, devil-worshipping cult. He says 1 out of 10. That means when you meet 10 people all across America, 1 of them is like this person that I just described. Now, I don't know. That's what he says. I'm not telling you that that's the statistic that I came up with. But this rabbit hole goes real deep.
Welcome. I'm Luis Dubois.
And I'm Christine Johnson. We begin with some breaking news. A horrifying discovery at a store in Herald Square.
Security guards going after shoplifters stopped 2 17-year-old girls and find the remains of a newborn baby in a shopping bag. CBS 2's Hazel Sanchez live at the scene. Hazel.
What happened here this afternoon is both sickening and heartbreaking, and police are still here at the scene trying to figure out how 2 teenage girls ended up at this flagship Victoria's Secret store with a fetus in one of their bags. It happened around 1:30 this afternoon at this Victoria's Secret store on 34th Street in Herald Square. Police say 2 17-year-old girls were stopped by store security because they were caught shoplifting. Police say one of the girls admitted she had a baby in her bag. Police say the girl told investigators that she gave birth to a fetus yesterday and didn't know what to do with the body. Now, police don't know where the young woman actually delivered the baby, but shoppers this afternoon were distraught after learning what happened in the middle of this very busy shopping district.
In the last 2 years, the remains of more than 15,000 miscarried or aborted babies were incinerated by the National Health Services in the UK, run and operated by the British government. A total of 10 trusts admit to disposing of more than 1,000 fetuses as clinical waste, while 2 more accept that they used waste-to-energy incinerators, which generate power for hospitals, while eliminating so-called medical waste. So, Gabriel, this is disturbing and darkly so, on an almost sort of horrific level. What's really happening here is that we have babies, fetuses, who are up to 24 weeks old, so that's 6-month-old babies, be they from miscarriages or from abortions, being incinerated to, along with medical waste. So that's with scrubs and needles and syringes and whatever other crap is generated by a hospital is burnt. And in some instances, 2 of these health trusts, not hospitals, but trusts, and a trust will operate and manage a number of hospitals within the UK. In some instances, they're using that incineration, or the energy from incinerating those babies, to keep the lights on.
Right.